So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Power Ranger? So let's start the series. This is a member of the Dangerous clan. Shouted the famous Sannin, Naruto, return. The teenager quickly moved away from the orange masked person. Oh dear, the Jestful said, you shouldn't be here. Toby is unable to convert his little friend till the very end. I guess I'll have to keep you in a safe place. The fabled Sannin tried to intervene as the cloud-clad creature dashed forward. But for some reason, the man became immaterial and passed right through the outstretched leg of the toad sage. Suddenly, the man materialized right in front of Naruto and was there once more. In a few years I'll be able to use you, little boy Kamui, so I'll see you then. Naruto felt a strange strain, as if he were being drawn in one direction. He saw the legendary Sannin use wind bolt power to strike the masked man during this odd incident. The Dangerous clan member grunted and then moved in such a way that Naruto felt himself being pulled sideways instead of backward. And the world whirled and became hazy. He heard an agonized wail and felt a strange rending sensation deep within. And when he woke up, there was mist everywhere and a gloomy ceiling above him. Under the assault Insane's hops, Langsam hobbled himself. Oh no, where am I? He observed that the room was somewhat strange when he looked about. This part of the area was divided from a wider, dark cavern by a little gate behind him that was somewhat taller than him. There were candles everywhere, an altar off to one side, and a huge vase atop an amazing archway in front of him. Suddenly, a blue light poured out of the vase and gathered in front of him, forming a broad blue armored man with a katana on his back. The more important question is, why have you entered my temple of power, little one? Naruto fell to the ground in shock and scurried back till his back was to the gate. Oh. Look, I'm sorry, gentlemen. I believe this weird guy was attempting to transport me when he attacked me. It's possible that my sensei farted him, preventing the teleportation from working, and now I'm here. I assure you that it's not my fault, so please don't be upset. With hands on his knees, the strange man knelt down and studied the youngster intently. The core energy is natural, not acquired through intense training and meditation or a direct connection to the morphing grid. Interesting. That annoyed Naruto a little. Hey. Let me tell you, I've put in some serious training. The boy jumped up, and the man straightened up completely, but Naruto didn't care and shook his fist at the man, saying, I've trained super hard to become a great ninja. I've learned a lot of nin spirit art skills and other things from Iruka-sensei, the 6th headmaster sensei, and legendary Sannin sensei. And I've never been closer to becoming Hokage than I am today. Databeo. Innate core energy, refined and polished into nin spirit art methods, and a fire shadow. The figure cocked its head. Who are you? Where are you from, boy? I'm Naruto Uzumaki, the genin of the ninja village Hidegakure, the village hidden in the leaves. Naruto said, inflating his chest and pointing to it with his thumb. And I'll be the strongest ninja ever and take charge of that village one day. Then the last thing he expected occurred. The individual in front of him began to chuckle. To be honest, when he saw an intruder in his domain, it was the last thing the guy in front of him had expected. The boy's expression of indignation and incredulity caused the blue figure to stop laughing and raise a hand. I believe you, child, but I haven't seen an art student that young and energetic in a long time. The guy then took off his helmet, revealing an old but not old face, long white hair, white eyes that Naruto recognized as the eye power, and 2 small horns sticking out of his forehead. I was just laughing at memories of my own distant youth. I am Tsunade Satsuki, part of the dimension-traveling clan of planet eaters who renounced their ways and became this dimension's greatest sage of the ninja arts, which preceded the ninja arts in your homeworld. I keep a watchful eye on my extended family. My cousin Otsutsuki God was the mother of your world's sage of the 6 paths, so I know all about the Hyde Ninja Village. However, here I am known as Ninja. The youngster began counting on his fingers as Naruto's mouth fell open even more. What? He cried out. I thought the sage of the 6 paths was just a legend. Goodness gracious. And you are his mother's cousin. That must mean you're like. Ninja said, I am about 20,000 years old, as the boy started to take off his shoes in an effort to count his toes. My tribe has a long lifetime, but in order to get what I have through more peaceful means, we typically have to absorb the life forces of planets. Naruto raised his head and said, wait, if you are aware of the secret ninja village, and your family is traveling between. Well, can you get me home, please? Unfortunately, my longevity process has tied me irrevocably to this dimension. My powers cannot affect dimensions that are not explicitly connected to this one. Even in smaller dimensions connected to this one, my powers are significantly diminished. I cannot get you home, young one, Ninja said with a grimace and a downward glance. Naruto was devastated by this and acknowledged that he didn't fully understand it until Ninja's final statement. The alien man's heart softened a bit more as the youngster, his expressiveness and joy were so obvious, nearly broke. This doesn't mean that I can't get you home. Rather, I can't do it myself. There might be ways within this dimension that can accomplish it. With that in mind, why don't I teach you my own interpretation of the arts? It may take a few years, but once you've gained enough strength and understanding of this universe, you can look for a solution on your own. While Naruto was thinking about this, a flame on the neighboring altar grew brighter and redder, a hue he would have recognized if he had paid attention. Adebayo, that looks like my best chance. The boy's curiosity about this new world, and the chance to learn from a relative of such a great man as the Sage of the Six Paths, immediately rekindled his excitement. Naruto's tummy rumbled at this point. Does this place have a kitchen, Ninja-sensei? Ninja's katana caught 12 shuriken in an instant, sending them flying. The youngster, accompanied by 2 shadow clones, charged in to unleash a flurry of Tai spirit art attacks, and the genuine Naruto tumbled backward over a bush, as the sage defended them all with one hand, while his other hand swiftly poked at the clones with his blade, making them disappear. The ninja's garden, outside the temple's main area, Naruto and his opponent were sparring. It had only been a few minutes, but Naruto was already breathing profusely. He was brought out here to test his skills after he had eaten his fill. Ninja was a little impressed, with a few exceptions. Although the boy's Tai spirit art technique was not very good, his nin spirit art skills were impressive for a 13-year-old, and his weapon skills were more than adequate. But what Ninja found most impressive was the boy's grasp of improvisational tactics, which he would wager made him an extremely dangerous and unpredictable opponent for most adversaries. He unleashed a strong vacuum force that surged toward the original Naruto, who burst into smoke upon collision, by thrusting his fist and applying a tiny bit of core energy. You made good use of your ability to substitute, young shinobi. Swapping yourself out for a clone is nearly always the better option, given that you can create so many, he said, using his eye power behind his helmet to find Naruto. If the sage was being too laid back, there was no reason to let the boy get arrogant by letting him land an unexpected blow. Once more, the youngster sprang from the ground, and Ninja quickly punched him in the head with the katana hilt, sending Naruto reeling and kicking him into a tree trunk. Avoid depending too much on ambushes from a direction you've previously targeted. While you are seldom predictable, you do tend to default to certain tactics. Naruto quickly regained his balance and got to his feet, saying, "Yes, Ninja-sensei. Then give in to this. Mass shadow clone technique," he said, conjuring his favorite hand sign and using most of his last core energy. You certainly have a significant core energy reserve, don't you, little grasshopper?" Ninja said, tilting his head as 100 Naruto clones appeared throughout the yard. As the clones charged in and began to demolish the throng, Ninja laughed. While his other hand actively grabbed and tossed oncoming clones, his sword was a cyclone of metal and death. He used his free hand to kick, backflip, and even spin like a top, busting clones with his spinning blade and feet at the same time. Finally, Ninja leaped to his feet, threw his sword away, and began performing something Naruto had never seen before. The sage made a single hand gesture. Suddenly, a massive ninja descended on dozens of shadow clones at once with a foot. All but 5 of the remaining clones were sent flying by a quick kick, and those 5 gathered around the original, who was attempting to generate a powerful wind ball. He created one that was roughly the size of a beach ball, with the help of 2 clones, and it leaped at Ninja's massive figure. His technique crashed to the earth, creating a massive hole, only to be rejected by the blue sage. Ninja quickly grew back to his typical size. "Naruto, that was fantastic. For your age, you have a lot of talent, and I think you'll make a good disciple," he remarked. From inside the crater, he heard a low moan of pain, and then a fist slowly and shakily came out to give him the thumbs up. The hand then fell back into the hole. After a short delay, Ninja approached with curiosity and peered inside. A snoring greeted him from his new pupil. The new mentor quietly grabbed his unconscious student and carried him to one of the temple's side rooms, which would now be his own, saying, "Maybe I got a little overzealous." He passed the altar on his way back to his vase to await Naruto's awakening, and noticed that one of the candles, which represented various elements of the morphing grid, was still in a state of flux and anguish. This was a big, enraged red candle. When he'd seen it earlier, he thought it was just a result of the boy's presence. Dimensional energies frequently agitated the grid. He became worried, though, when a few hours had passed. Ninja headed toward his main ritual room, which was beside his library. He used this area to construct grid magic or fusion spirit art rituals, as well as the hybrid rituals that produce power coins and swords. Ninja was then prepared for the scrying ceremony with 3 incense burners, a spiraling seal drawing made of chalk filled with core energy, and a giant decorative mirror in the center. Ninja made 3 hand signals to direct grid power and core energy into the seal, making everything sparkle. He found something startling. Inside the part of the morphing grid that held the spirit animals he employed for ninjetti-based powers and swords, there was a violent but not wholly evil fox spirit, made of boiling red core energy. His temple had the strongest connection to this area. The spirit was fighting the spirits of the ape, falcon, crane, frog, wolf, and bear at the same time, and it was winning. As he watched, the hawk spirit became entangled in the conflict, and the fox spirit's 9 tails struck out, sending all 7 spirit creatures tumbling onto the grid's astral ground. With a sigh, Ninja entered and used grid power to activate his own sage mode. As soon as he crossed over, his normal armor was covered in a bright blue core energy armor, and he shrank to his enormous form. "That is sufficient. he said, his voice echoing over the ethereal world. The enormous fox spirit yowled in fury as ribbons of core energy that resembled sashes sprang out and expanded with hands outstretched. Who are you, spirit? How did you get into my astral dimensions? The fox hissed once more. You. How can you have the same core energy as my father? How can you use ribbons to restrain the beasts no Kitsune the way and Uzumaki could use chains? The boy was your Jinchuriki. Ninja realized then. My defenses must have redirected you into this realm when he came here inadvertently. I don't care why my jailer was here, the fox growled. Damn you, answer my queries. With a sigh, Ninja removed his mask for the second time that day. The answer is really straightforward. I am your father's cousin, or at the very least, his mother's cousin. I am to this world what he was to yours. The grumpy fox spirit was speechless for a change. From my observations of your world, I know you were unjustly sealed away, yet this has created a brittle bitterness within you. Ninja moaned as he broke the silence, while observing the animal spirits of his sector of the grid gradually assemble and recover behind him. I'll give you permission to dwell with other spirits in my astral plane while you're in this realm. You would be free to move around the large, spiritually diverse realm as long as you behaved. But in exchange, I have 2 requests. What 2 things? The beast paused for a moment to think about this, looking about as the ethereal clearing finally opened up into a mixture of strange and eerie astral scenery. First of all, I would like to introduce you. It is also important that, should the time come for you to need assistance, you have a ranger conjured for the forces of this world and your craft, if you deem him worthy. It would not be necessary for you to be constantly in contact with the ranger. He would only occasionally access your craft. This occurs in a much smaller scale and is less intrusive than with your Jinchuriki. After giving a little snarl, the fox gave up and said, very good. My name is Nine Beast, provided it is indeed as subtle as you say. Agreement was made as Nine Beast inserted a paw into Ninja's hand, and as the paw was removed, a new power coin featuring a 9-tailed fox on its face emerged. Ninja reached out and freed the bonds. Rido had been at the heart of Ninja's temple for 2 years now, and in that time he had learned a lot. Kia. He cried as he pushed out his hand, sending a gust of wind hurtling in his mentor's direction. His basic training outfit consisted of orange martial arts pants, a black tank top with orange trim, ninja sandals, and a black headband that prevented his hair from getting in his eyes. Ninja's training had focused on Tai spirit art and Ken spirit art, so over the past 2 years, his skills had greatly improved, and his body reflected this. He had lost all of his baby fat and gained a lot of wiry muscle. Their attention had also been drawn to his capacity to manipulate the wind. Ninja was a physical ninja master with expertise in both the yin and yang releases, as well as all elemental releases, as seen by his mastery of the super multi-size technique. With pure elemental manipulation, Naruto could now project vacuum waves and generate wind blades along his palm. He was also practicing the wind walking method, though his core energy control was not yet strong enough to properly exploit it, and he could spam lethal wind techniques with hand signs. Infused with core energy, Ninja's blade easily sliced through the attack, causing air pressure to shatter off to the sides into bushes, and for some reason, a ridiculous explosion of leaves and dirt burst forth. Rido took the tanto from the sheath on his black belt, grunted briefly, squinted at his teacher, and hurried over to Ninja to unleash a barrage of Ken spirit art. Rido preferred to fight with the short sword in a reverse grip, with wide slashes and backhanded thrusts, that could be amplified with his wind core energy for maximum effect. The length of the blade was irrelevant. He could take a standard grip and use his wind core energy to extend the blade when he needed more reach. His tanto held up well against Ninja's katana, since it was made of the same metal that was clearly used in every ranger-related weapon Ninja has encountered over the ages. And the katana resisted the wind core energy's attacks with fortitude. 3 shadow clones appeared, immediately swinging their own tantos and encircling Ninja, while Naruto made his favorite hand seal, while dodging a broad strike from his sensei. Unfortunately, the clones vanished with their punches, almost hitting their creator, and Rido Prime had to do an emergency backflip as Ninja plunged quickly into the earth. Rido was about to complete his reverse flip when Ninja's fist sprang out and punched him squarely in the jaw, sending him flying. The silver energy beam impacted and combined into the shape of a young woman, as the impact's power caused an orange and black blur to fly into the air. She dropped into a battle stance with her staff, her eyes wide with surprise. "Is there an attack on the temple, father?" she yelled. "Ah, it's nothing like that, Dulcia. I just wanted you to meet my new acolyte." "Well, I expected you a bit later. It seems you've come during our daily training session," the sage said as he gently turned to face her. The far-off Naruto, who had not heard the conversation from that far out, struggled to his feet and started to approach, grunting. "Who's this, sensei?" The woman was dressed in a combat bikini and thigh-high boots, so while Naruto's curiosity was sincere, he was also quickly forcing himself to keep his eyes up. The blue sage chastised, "You should have expected that final blow, Naruto. Now, let me present to you. Dulcia, meet my new student, Naruto Uzumaki. And Naruto, this is my daughter, Dulcia, the second in Jedi Temple, and the protector of Fidos." The second temple, Naruto said, his eyes widening. Dine talked her. Ninja nodded and said, yes. Remember our lessons on the war one fought with the Order of Meridian. Where did I fight alongside Sordin and many other now fallen allies against Master Vile and Ivanus? Finally, Naruto made the connection. So that was your command center on Fido's Durzwei Temple. Actually, Naruto, the last native Nathadian's daughter was Dulcia, the Ninjeti's Silver Ranger at the time. She took on the duty of protecting the temple ruins after the conflict to prevent bad forces from taking use of the morphing grid connection there. Dulcia sighed. There's no need to make me sound completely like a hermit, father. I just don't wander too far from the Hyperion cluster so I can come back if necessary. Wow, so you must be a really powerful ninja too, right? If you are the offspring of an Otsutsuki, like the sage of the Six Paths. Naruto intervened at this point. Dulcia's gaze shifted to the teenager, who had a great deal of core energy, and she triggered her normally dormant eye power. You're right, and I think you could give me a good challenge, considering that the majority of my raw core energy and grid power is dedicated to maintaining the Fune spirit art and magic wards that protect Fido's. That slightly upset Naruto, who said, wait, what? You think I would still lose even with a handicap? Ninja laughed. Naruto, she may appear to be under 20 by human standards, but she is actually 6,100 years old and has been a ranger for the past 6,000 years. Naruto simply poked his tongue out at his guru to give himself some time, because he had no meaningful way to respond to it. This is a mature response, my friend. Hey sensei, you're not unbeatable or eternal, just because you and your race may live forever by either consuming planets or being linked to the morphing grid after all. If age was that crucial, Zordon wouldn't have children my age facing off against Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa, who are 12,000 years old. Ninja's rejoinder was overtaken by tinkling laughter as he turned to face his amused daughter. Dad, I really like these here. He has stumbled and makes a mistake. I had only been on the buckle for 100 years, so I didn't need Ivanus's natural wisdom, but I had to do it in order to save the galaxy. And my skills continue to grow in response to this challenge. Ninja conceded by carefully cocking his head and replied, you are both correct. After so many centuries, I sometimes forget the power of youth and determination. Your fiery wills enable you to acquire the skills necessary to confront and overcome the greatest challenges and evils. That is why I summoned Dulcia here today to witness the addition of a new ranger. Both humanoids straightened their spines in shock. Since the other members of her team had died while securing Ivan, Dulcia had been the only ranger directly under her father. And after realizing that the morphing grid might be his only route back home, and that his home universe could benefit from a group like the Rangers, Naruto, who had been dreaming of this moment for a year and a half since he fully comprehended and learned about the Power Rangers and their role in this universe. Naruto quickly got over his surprise, which turned into joy. Yes. Thank you very much, sensei. I will become the best ranger ever, protecting this universe, finding a way to return to mine, and producing more rangers there to keep everyone safe. Databeo. As was to be expected, Dulcia handled the whole My Universe part of it by putting the details aside for a conversation with her father later. Before long, Naruto had cleaned himself up and was standing in front of Ninja in the main chamber of the temple, where he had first appeared 2 years prior. At the precise center of the altar, the vase, and the gate, Ninja had Naruto close his eyes before beginning his statement. I have guided you on your path to knowledge and power for the past 2 years. Since people exist, they pursue careers. From Ninja to the vase to the altar and via Dulcia, lightning blazed and crackled throughout the space. I am Ninja, my body, mind, spirit, and heart are all pure because the light of the light and the strength of my soul ignited this enduring force within me. Now, the lightning curled and went around Naruto. Join me today, as I become one with the real power. Your trip is over. Open your eyes and take control of your destiny. Naruto and Ninja became connected when the lightning struck him. Soon later, he was wearing full ninja gear, including a hood and face mask, as his ninja training suit strengthened and transformed. It had black accents and was orange. The emblem of his power coin was shown in the middle of his chest. In his hand was the 9-tailed fox magic coin. His eyes expanded once he opened them. That fucking fox has followed me all the way here. The fox's spirit, along with all the other animal spirits associated with my Ninjeti Rangers and the morphing grid, actually resides in my astral plane, my protege. You will get power from it, even though it won't consciously link with you, and I have harnessed that power to make a sword for you. Dulcie gave a gentle whistle. I can feel the force coming from that coin. How strong is the spirit you're referring to, father? It doesn't feel like my owl spirit at all. 9 Beast, the Kitsu no Beast of Naruto's planet, possesses the strength of a complete Ultra Megazord when fully unleashed. Naruto could see the first rift in Dulcia's self-assurance in her eyes. There was a glimmer of concern, perhaps even fear. Naruto, dressed as an orange ninja ranger, looked at the 6 rangers assembled in front of Zordon, and tilted his head in a way that was quite similar to his master's. Shiksai weg, ninja-sensei. I'm not impressed. If it's necessary, I'll fight Rita and Zed. Why but you don't know anything about us. the pink-clad girl yelled. I saw your terrible struggle with the enormous pigeons, and that was enough for me to propose to my master. Never assumed that Naruto couldn't learn from books. He simply thought reading and sitting were dull. He had also received a word of the date calendar for the previous year from Ninja. All he needed was a dictionary and some patience to start generating better impressions, despite the fact that people had always believed he was stupid. He shifted his focus to the long-haired adolescent wearing a white dress, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. I admit that we didn't give our best performance. But let us prove our value to you and your lord. Then came the red one, which Naruto thought was completely unmemorable. It's our job to protect Angel Grove and Earth. And we fought for a long time and with tenacity. Rito took us by surprise and hit us in a way that prevented us from fighting back. Then the black-clad individual moved forward, and Naruto thought, oh Kami, they're going one after the other. Fine, geez, he said, raising his hand. You guys are tenacious. At last, Ninja remarked, yes, not unlike another teenager I know. Eugenlicker, screamed the 6 rangers, shocked. With a moan, Naruto changed back into his regular workout attire. I could take all 6 of you in a spar, Databeo. He held up his hand in a challenging manner. Yeah, I probably only have a few months on the oldest of you, but you know what? Ninja interjected, setting the terms for the combat and their support. Very well, Naruto. It's a 6-on-1 battle with no weapons. Limit yourself to 5 clones, and if they impress us, I will help them. Naruto, his Thai spirit art had improved greatly over the course of his 3 years of training with Ninja, proclaimed, I'm still going to kick their asses, as he positioned himself in a wide sideways horse stance, one arm down by his waist with a clenched fist, and the other extended forward, palm open toward his opponents. After jumping back to give themselves some space, the 6 rangers looked at each other and nodded. They all took their places, and Naruto turned his attention to his enemies at away. The white one was the most dangerous, which made sense because they all seemed to occasionally differ from his perspective. He turned his attention to the boy in black, whose posture was that of a martial arts practitioner, a style from a Thai spirit art he had seen before. He imagined he would give the red one third priority, and he seemed to be in a slight kickboxing stance. But that was all he could do before the rangers took action. The white one charged forward to confront him, and he realized that he ought to have placed the pink and blue ones far higher on his list of priorities. Quick and agile, the pink ranger was right behind him in 5 seconds and 2 flips. Within 5 seconds, the kid started kicking quickly at any openings created by the white ranger's powerful strikes, and the pink ranger's constant mobility, despite the blue ranger's unimpressive fighting style. He would admit that the black, yellow, and red rangers were all proficient. In a direct high spirit art battle, they could probably defeat the majority of genin. But their work was little compared to the cooperation of the pink, blue, and white rangers. Naruto was testing the rangers with a defensive Thai spirit art technique before utilizing any nin spirit art, much less his clones. It would be a huge success if he could defeat them with just the Academy 3, which was something he sort of wanted to see. As the blue female threw a punch, he replaced himself with a log to prevent another axe kick from the pink girl. While the adolescent with glasses delivered a direct blow to the log, he let out a pained howl, which greatly stoked his inner prankster. You idiots, Cowabunga Naruto cried out because he was eager to antagonize them, and because Dulcia had watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on a VCR and TV set she had purchased on her most recent trip to Earth for a session with Zordon. Of course, announcing your attacks was a stupid idea, and the Rangers were used to this kind of conduct and to exploiting it. When Naruto let out his battle cry, Tommy had enough time to slide away and avoid his 20-foot-high descending kick. The 6 Rangers jumped back in shock at the crater and cloud of dust that Naruto had caused. In shock, the Black Ranger cried, hat sich nicht malverwandelt. The Blue Ranger was definitely the group stinker. I couldn't figure out how he put the bombstem there, but he was on the hut. He used the stop as sitches. Ah! The Blue Ranger was suddenly thrown to the ground until only his neck was left exposed, and Naruto appeared behind him, yelling, Bingo specs. Billy! Exclaimed the person wearing pink. 5 were left, Einer Geschichte. A kick that was headed straight for his head was intercepted by Naruto, who tossed the red one into the branches of a neighboring tree, taking his breath away and ensnaring him. Leave for and all. While the pink and white rangers attempted to outmaneuver the more experienced ninja from the sides, the black and yellow rangers decided to make a coordinated attack. Naruto caught the black ranger's hammer fist and twisted his arm in agony, while dodging a roundhouse kick from the dark-skinned yellow ranger, and sweeping her other foot out from under her. He was forced to backflip and release them when the Rangers' leader rushed in with a flurry of spin kicks. The pink one used the momentum of many cartwheels to almost hit him. With a single hand gesture, Naruto sighed and said, I was going easy on you guys, but I guess you're worth breaking a little sweat for. He created 2 duplicates of himself, each of whom faced the white and pink Rangers. With a cheeky smile, he turned back to the other 2 Rangers who had just gotten off their asses and asked, now, where were we? The black and yellow Rangers shocked Naruto by lunging forward, their expressions stern and determined. Again, Naruto was in a very unbalanced martial arts duel with the two rangers, and while he respected their determination, he went into a more serious mode after remembering how the pink and white rangers had destroyed his clones, and drawing his arms close to his body as he rotated between the two rangers, he grabbed them by the arms and threw them into their approaching allies. Ninja stepped forward and said, "I've seen enough, Naruto. They have spirit, if not raw power," as the four surviving rangers moaned and tried to break free of their entanglement. "Chen," Naruto said, crossing his arms and scowling a little. "Great, I'm becoming Naruto's friend," he said, blinking and shaking his head. "I can sort of see where you're coming from, master, but I request to train them after they finish their current battle," he said, shuddering as he nodded to his sensei. "They will need someone to teach them how to employ the core energy talents that the morphing grid will grant them while they are altered." Ninja bowed and said, "You are my disciple, Naruto, because I was going to say the same thing. My abilities will be greatly diminished for a while after I replenish their old power coins, so this is a perfect opportunity to teach you while facilitating their acquisition of their new abilities." Still stunned by their pounding, Naruto looked at the 6 rangers who were slowly assembling. "It appears that I will be coming back to Earth with all of you, but don't expect me to let you take it easy." With a cheeky smile on his face, Naruto decided to play a small practical joke. "I will show you the full might of youth," he exclaimed, raising a fist, and it was evident from their looks that they thought he was insane. "Your abilities used to come from the physical strength of dinosaurs, but now they come from the quickness and slyness of ninjas." Ninja was a bit of a loner, but he enjoyed the chance to show off and make an impression when he could, and Naruto almost laughed at his antics. To be honest, Naruto thought all ninjas were much more dramatic than their professions called for, and he proudly included himself in this opinion. However, he thought, I can't wait for them to see Mechanine Beast if they find their new Zord so impressive. The name he had affectionately given his sword, knowing full well that the fox would devour him for such an insult if he ever made it to the spirit level. This goes beyond simply regaining your ranger talents because your new power coins give you advanced abilities. Working together as a team is still essential. Consequently, every Zord has the capacity to. "Master, they know how to form a Megazord," Naruto eventually said. "Naruto, let me have my moment. Unthankful offspring," said Ninja, while the other rangers appeared to be amused by this exchange of words. In stark contrast to his original stoic and surly manner, they were completely perplexed by this animated and enthusiastic version of the sage. They were unable to reconcile it with the unrepentant clown who had destroyed their entire team and was now purportedly going to teach them how to wield a new inner power connected to the new coins. Irrespective of my disciple's absence of talent for the soliloquy. Cough monologue cough, Naruto retorted. Indeed, you have proven that you deserve to be given these ninja abilities, and to continue learning the ninja techniques. Come forward and seize your swords. Aisha, the fierce yellow bear. Billy, the silent blue wolf. Kimberly, the shining pink crane. Adam, the wise black frog. Tommy, the just white falcon. And Rocky, the powerful red ape. They moved forward and seized their swords. Following that, Naruto gained their attention. Here's a quick test. The Tenga warriors that previously caused you so much problems are attempting to enter the temple. Could you look after them for me? With a ram seal in front of his chest, and the signature 6 headmaster eye smile, Naruto stated, think of this as your graduation exam. Then you'll be my little genin team. Perhaps I will allow you to assume the Chunin title one day. I take it those are ninja ranks? Billy asked, glancing at Adam. How high do they go, I wonder? Genin, Chunin, Jonin, and a leader of a highly powerful ninja clan or village can all be caged. Now get out there before I put you in detention for talking during a test, Naruto said as he appeared between them in a puff of smoke. Adam rolled his eyes, taking the remark as a joke, but Billy seemed truly offended. Further posturing led Naruto to believe that the Rangers were using Theatrix as a crutch to get easier access to the power of the morphing grid, much like ninjas utilized hand sign chains, when they could accomplish the same thing with just one hand sign, or, with greater practice, one-handed signals. Naruto observed the newly ninja-garbed Rangers tearing apart the Tenga warriors from the ridge where the desert met the temple's periphery. Billy let out a self-directed hum of him, as he grabbed a Tenga and dropped it with unexpected power. Tommy's dogpiling and subsequent escape utilizing a substitute technique, as well as Kimberly's quick demonstration of a weak shunshin, which appeared as her briefly blurring in a super speed line, shocked Naruto. They provide them an instinctive understanding of fundamental spirit art and the application of kern energy. Amazing. Worded Mal, Istas, he said, focusing his gaze on Aisha, who was brutally attacked by several Tenga at first. A little damp emerged from the argentlets of their bodies. Ninja, are these coins capable of forcing open a gate? It feels like you're supercharged, Adam yelled, and Naruto wondered how much of it there was. I'm curious about the toll this will take on their bodies when they demorph, but it can't go beyond the gate of opening. Naruto didn't have time to think about this, as the Rangers quickly got ready to depart and fight an invading Rito Revolto. Tommy, Kimberly, Billy, Adam, Aisha, and Rocky, you have passed your test. I'm proud to have given you the rank of genin. Stop Rito here with your new Zords, and I'll begin your training tomorrow. I have total faith that you can send this bag of bones home in tears to his sister, the orange ninja said, turning to face them. I'm so excited to learn from you, Naruto-sensei, Tommy said as he moved forward and held out his hand. My eyes and the team's have been opened by the things you do outside of your morph. Before this power is truly ours, we still have a long way to go. And those moves were really awesome, said Adam, smiling. In particular, that clone. Hey, you haven't even seen half of my skills. You will be able to accomplish this as well when I put you through my youthful training regime. With the energy of a big beach ball, Naruto raised a hand and formed a super wind ball. Don't act shocked. I've done my research on my adorable disciples. This baby can deliver the same impact as your combined weapon cannon that you used to obliterate monsters before. The Rangers looked appropriately impressed as they changed into their new ninja garb forms and launched themselves into their Zords to face Rito as the wind ball power decreased. The fight was suitably unbalanced. The Rangers, in their new Super Falcon Ninja Megazord, forced the skeletal enemy to retreat quickly without delivering a true final blow with a weapon. Sensei, you were correct. These children have promise. But Tommy ist einen Monat alter als du. What the hell? What about the others? With Aisha and Adam being the youngest, you are still just a few months older than Billy, Kimberly, and Rocky. Yes, regarding him, what makes Rocky the Red Ranger rather than Tommy? Tommy was his co-leader, and his predecessor was an excellent Red Ranger. Tommy had already acquired his White Tiger abilities by the time Jason had to depart. Don't get me wrong, Rocky isn't a bad choice for a Ranger. I think he and Adam are equally talented, but Adam has the better temperament and potential. It just seems like a strange choice for a Red given the Ranger history you've told me in the past. Yes, I believe Tommy would be his team's Red Ranger if the choices were made from scratch. However, it was intriguing to observe that Rocky doesn't appear to mind not being in charge. Well, once the new powers and Zords have settled into their command center, I'll let Zorda know about your arrival in a few days. The temple was besieged by a monster the next day. Zed had obviously discovered its location after the Tengas had followed the Rangers there the day before. Budo sat on a ridge and ate popcorn as Ninja played with Vampirus. No need for your Zords, guys, he said, gesturing to the 6 Rangers. I'll show you my Zord instead if Master appears to be in difficulty. A couple more conversations suggested that Ninja might be in danger before he could break free from Vampirus's delusion. Face the power of my Justice Ninja Sage mode. He combined his katana with its sheath to become an Ajinata, and his huge armored body gained a helmet and a core energy cloak. Vampirus became a thing of the past with a couple more clever maneuvers. Adam said, I have to confess, I was somewhat curious to see your Zord, Naruto. Your Zord is probably more phenomenal, but is your power coin a multi-tailed fox? Morphe, Hanel des Damadum, einen Digimon Verways. As in prodigious. Naruto blinked, making a very believable gasping sound. Billy, are you a nerd? The previous year, Naruto had convinced Ninja to install cable. I might watch Digimon, replied a flushed Billy, who had trouble with sarcasm. Kimberly, on the other hand, tentatively backed Billy, speculating that Naruto could be fun but not sure. Using the same honorific Tommy used the other day, she added, Naruto. Sensei. If you watch Digimon, doesn't that make you a nerd too? Outside the Rangers' command center, Naruto sat cross-legged on top of a boulder, Zordan's Rangers facing him in a semicircle on the ground. Alright, my cute Gen in class. I suppose I should start by explaining where your new abilities came from. Billy raised a hand at once, and Naruto sighed and said, Yes Billy. My understanding was that our abilities came from the morphing grid and were guided by a link with our power coins, in a quantum balancing with aspects of our animal spirits. Naruto sighed again and waved, and a clone in a standard lab coat appeared beside him with a puff of smoke. With another blast of smoke, he flung a scroll to the clone, revealing a chalkboard filled in diagrams. Billy was right once. Were his old power coins an issue? However, the new ninja power coins not only allow you to access the morphing grid, but they also move your core energy coils in a way that activates them and allows you to use core energy. This is something I consider to be a scripted and strictly regulated version of a dangerous augmentation technique. He quickly raised his hand to stop their alarm, saying, This version is not dangerous for your health, aside from the increased shopping after the morphing, which you already noticed. This will happen with time. Alright, that still seems very drastic. Naruto-sensei, is there anything we should be wary of? Tommy remained dedicated to the team's well-being. Naruto paused to consider this as his clone verified the diagrams were accurate. No, I believe you're doing well in that regard. I'm hoping that you'll eventually be able to create natural core energy coils from it, with more core energy training in Morph. You'll always have a lot more core energy to use in Morph, though. At the very least, this is demonstrated by the fact that Shunshin and the underground fish technique come naturally to all of you. However, Kimberly only carried out the most basic version of it for the Shunshin. Now, reluctantly raising her hand, Kimberly, who seemed extremely competent in certain social situations and during fighting, but occasionally retreated when conversations veered to philosophy and science. Hey everyone, please stop raising your hands. I have a question about your Shunsen. I think it's Kimberly. She blushed a little before speaking, saying, right. What would a full Shunshin look like, Naruto-sensei? What would that look like? The clone saw what was happening, grabbed the blackboard, and scurried out of the way as Naruto smiled and leaped to his feet. All right behind the rangers, Naruto appeared like a cloud of smoke and sand. They all flinched or leaped in shock. But the first stage is simply blurring, like Kimberly did. Smoke, debris, or any other choice of distraction, serves to obscure your enhanced speed and changes in movement direction, rendering you even more difficult for your opponents to track. Adam joined in, feeling quite excited about the idea. Wow. Can we manage to do the entire one? Indeed, my dear students, I will fully prepare you to do this in Morph, and maybe even beyond it one day. Aisha thought Naruto's V for victory hand motion was a little excessive, but she was unable to decipher what the piece was about for the sake of the power. Gradually, Aisha began to think that their new professor was just as insane as their adversaries, but in a far more kind way. But if ninja was any guide, would it just be a ninja thing? She was brought back to the present, though, when Naruto poofed back over to the chalkboard, which had been returned to its original place. Now that we have answered your basic questions, I will explain core energy. Plotzlik referred to Naruto as a chemist, and he gesticulated on the tafel with his colleague. Billy thought to himself, based on those diagrams, shouldn't he be dressed like a biology or physics specialist, not a chemistry one? Naturally, the other rangers thought he was insane. In essence, core energy is a life force that comes from the balance of spiritual and physical forces, namely yang and yin energies. Although everyone has some of these energy, it is rare to be able to use them in this situation. Over the course of the more than 30-minute lesson, Naruto discussed and showed a number of tactics that he had learned from both Ninja and his world, albeit Ninja provided the most, if not all, of the technical information. Put on your ninja suits and let's learn how to sense our inner energy. Alright, now that we've covered all the theoretical science stuff, I'm going to show you the real deal. Everyone was delighted by this comment, with the exception of Billy. By means of meditation. The only people who had previously meditated were Tommy, Billy, Adam, and Kim. Rocky had a martial arts history that included boxing and kickboxing before he became a ranger. And Aisha had no prior meditation experience. She was just incredibly dedicated to changing the world. It had been taught to the more experienced rangers in various classes by Jason and Zordon. Everyone had found their core energy by the end of the third hour. The newer rangers were the last to do so, while Tommy and Kim had found theirs in the first half hour. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to use techniques consciously instead of automatically. As Tommy showed in that Tenga fight, the substitution spirit art is the most practical and life-saving technique, so that's what we'll start with for this session. Naruto showed them how to utilize hand signals. Once more and again. Prior to bashing his head on the ground to vent his annoyance. Alright, stop, I now see why we spent 2 years in the academy concentrating on hand signs before learning any spirit art. For someone who hasn't mastered them to the level of muscle memory, it can be frustrating and feel like it takes ages. I guess it means I'm assigning homework. Ugh, I hate myself for that, but it's what it is. I guess I'll drop off some pamphlets with Zordon. Is there a copy shop around here? Only Tommy was able to focus his core energy with the correct RAM sign after 3 days of practice and homework. The next day, Naruto was staring at the viewing globe in the command center alongside Alpha and Zordon. I.e., the rangers are genuinely perplexed by this beast. In fact, the beast from Kimberly's nightmare was wreaking havoc on the rangers, who were dressed as ninjas. Their previous outfits had provided far more protection, and they lacked the ninja skills necessary to adapt to the lightweight construction of the armor. Tommy yelled, "Okay, morphing time!" The entire command center was about to be taken by surprise. It's time to fight Morph, White Falcon. The morphing grid's intuitive nature would always astound Naruto. The whole ranger group changed into battle morph as Kimberly arrived. This form was quite similar to their previous outfits, but it had a smoother color palette and their new animal spirits on the helmets. Additionally, they could now summon slightly altered versions of their earlier weapons and absorb the monster's strikes. Tommy's absence was because Tsaba's tight association with the White Tiger Zord. But Billy's daggers outside of staff shape were more like bladed tonfas than anything else, while Kimberly had a power bow that was a little more streamlined and extended. Zordon, ich habe noch viel über Ranger Power zu lernen, oder? In reality, Naruto's training was extremely intense, and I discovered that, in general, a period of many years is required to truly understand the foundations of the Tefurjahenden Gymnastic grids. Yeah, my people usually don't have long lifespans. Would you like me to have Alpha and Billy construct a tube for you, young ninja? Alpha, hat Zordon Jared ensures gemacht. I.e. Zordon, that's not something you can do. Do you want to buy me a tube or make me a whiz? Alpha continued to use flashing lights as a distress signal. The Rangers and Naruto were taking a lunch break during their workout on Saturday. While Naruto was simply stealing bits and pieces from everyone's lunchboxes, the Rangers had all made their own. By now, they were used to this behavior. Naruto would either beg for food or open a cup of hot ramen. Adam turned to ask Naruto a question as he was eating half of a brownie that he had stolen from Billy. "Hi, Naruto-sensei. You're from another dimension. As Ninja and Zordon said, are there any Power Rangers-like elements in yours?" Zords. Naruto paused his eating to consider the topic. "Well, not really, Adam," the other Rangers said as soon as they heard about it. "You could argue that a moral ninja organization could function similarly to the Power Rangers, but the political climate in my planet isn't quite as tranquil as yours. Yes, there are always a few wars and other atrocities in your planet, but most people's daily lives don't include violence. In my planet, if you are gifted, you are taught to be a warrior in school starting at age 8. Additionally, you embark on missions at the age of 12 that may require you to murder or be killed." When Zordon's Rangers heard this account, they looked somber surprised. "How awful." Kimberly took a deep breath. "I don't think doing it was what was horrible. I think it was necessary." "The horrible part is that such things are necessary," Naruto said, cocking his head to the side and reflecting for a moment. Tommy's voice trailed off. "Naruto-sensei, hast du jemals umgebracht?" The concealed ninja village's shinobi stared at the floor. "I accept complete responsibility and involvement for the deaths of a few people, but not directly. Haku sticks out the most because she or he may have been a close friend, but something I did caused them to step in and take a fatal hit intended for someone else." There was an awkward silence for a few minutes before Naruto spoke again. "And to Zords. 9, but there are beings called Biju. In this case, it's a Risage Toothless construct Oscar energy on Belartigkeet, which are also the opposite of Zords. I once got myself against the Ein Schwanzig by Shikaku. I was able to besiege it by having a rice anchored in Besharin." Naruto held this stall in place. "Yeah, I guess the larger beasts that are called forth resemble Zords in some ways, but they have the ability to feel, think, and speak. In any case, Shikaku was a huge raccoon creature made of sand infused with core energy that had driven its host completely insane." Naruto-sensei. Aisha interrupted, almost fearing the answer, and then said, "What do you mean by host?" "A person seals the beast into them," Naruto said, sighing deeply. "The nine-tailed beast, the beast no Kitsune, was imprisoned within me. When I entered this universe, it was torn out." "Is that what happens to someone with that inside?" Tommy said, whistling softly. "The demon can give them more core energy, but a weak seal allows the demon to affect the host, possibly driving them insane. They recover quickly." For a minute, Naruto massaged his temples. "The Shikaku. It was contained within Sandman, one of my friends. It sent Sandman into a frantic bloodlust by tricking him into thinking it was his mother's ghost. Before I assisted him in realizing that the Shikaku wasn't his mother, Sandman slaughtered a great number of people to appease that beast." "Do you really think that Rita and Zed are true evil?" he asked, looking squarely into the Ranger's eyes. "In order to illustrate a creature of pure evil and the feeling it arouses." The creature of an 8-foot sandy raccoon materialized in front of them as he made the hand motion for the transformation spirit art, radiating what the Rangers could only describe as utter evil, ill will, and homicidal intent. Aisha fell to the ground, Adam staggered back, Billy felt the beginning of his first asthma attack, since he'd gained his ranger abilities, Rocky stood still, Kimberly shook violently, and Tommy had to hold back from attacking in revenge. As the Green Ranger, Tommy has already encountered that kind of evil. When the metamorphosis was complete, Naruto crossed his arms and turned to face them. "With Rita and Zed as your opponents, I'm practically jealous of you. They're too preoccupied with their small-scale battle with Zordon to realize how easily they may destroy this universe. What would you do if there released even 7 monsters in 7 different cities after conserving energy for a month or two? How would you go about saving the world?" Billy was about to speak when he stopped and took a seat to reflect. Kim and Tommy looked at each other uneasily, having been in the game for a long time and never thinking about the prospect. "Having said that, we will conclude today. Your assignment is to talk to Zordon and figure out what you would do if your enemies ever received a flash of insight." Kimberly's dreams that night did not even include the possibility of moving to Paris with her mother. Even though the Eiffel Tower and most of Paris were destroyed by a Zord-sized Shikaku in her nightmare, it might have just merged with other. Rita was having a great time using Finster's dream viewer on the moon. "Oh, look at that horrible creature, all I want to do is give it a big hug. The cruelty. The immorality. What a look." Yes, Finster, this notion of creating a nightmare creature was fantastic. The Pink Ranger will face her own waking nightmare tomorrow. Fantastic. "Oh, Your Highness, thank you, but I have to ask. How does Lord Zed feel about this idea?" "After we failed to apprehend that obnoxious ninja, he is pouting. When it works, this will be a great way to cheer him up." "Oh, my queen, what a wonderful present for him. You are even more brilliant than I am." Kaya." Tommy cried as he threw a series of roundhouse kicks at the final 2 putties, sending them flying. "Hey, isn't there a monster here normally?" Rocky inquired. It wasn't always a completely stereotypical encounter, but after the first few months of Rita's invasion, it quickly became a solid yes. Billy, sag einfach Shaw. Relax, children. Mummy has come to enjoy your blood. Ha ha ha. An 8-foot-tall figure made of swirling sand in the park was recognizable from the day before. It's time to face the evil of the Nightman, the raccoon of the night. Hey, I get that the name is pretty ridiculous, but did Rita seriously just create a knockoff of the monster Naruto showed us yesterday? Yes, I believe he did, Tommy. Should we be worried about her ability to read minds at this point? Adam thought. Maybe it was just about reading our dreams. Last night, I dreamed about it very frighteningly, Kimberly replied, biting her lip while hiding behind her mask. Billy stated, while this allays some fears, it also highlights its own concerns. Bah! Be quiet. Bad kids need a massive lethal embrace from Mummy. Sand coffin. The creature yelled as it extended its arms, launching a wave of sand in the direction of the Rangers, who ducked to avoid it. Rocky was thrown through the air as though he were being propelled by a strangely timed explosion. As the thing lunged forward and hit him in the stomach. Guys, this thing is really powerful, Rocky screamed as he stopped and stumbled to his feet. Ninja Ranger battle mode, you're right, it's time to change. Falcon Tommy led the call for them to don their new animal spirit helmets and transform into their more armored forms. Ape, Wolf, Bar, Frosh, Cran. The Rangers improved their armor and weapons in a blaze of light. The other Rangers pulled their power weapons and faced the malevolent Tanuki knockoff, while Tommy relied on his blaster. However, the body seemed to be made of sand and would swiftly reconstruct, so nothing they did seemed to cause long-term damage. That's not working. Aisha said, we need a new strategy. Tommy positioned himself as a tree branch to hide, while the beasts flooded the area with sand. Rangers, Stolen. I've got an idea. As if they were getting ready to focus their strength on the power blaster, the Rangers swiftly arranged themselves in a dispersed V-shape behind Tommy. Direct your energy and concentration and focus all of your vital energy in your hands. Each of their power hues began to radiate from their palms. Alright. The combined core energy cannon speared art. The creature became a lump of molten glass as a flash of multicolored energy swirled and screamed into it. Come on over so we can create this monster. Nuo. These stupid Rangers and their newfound powers. Zeddy. We must attack this creature with all of our might right away, Tommy yelled. Yes, exactly, we're capable. We urgently need the Ninja Falcon Megazord's might. Soon after, the Night Moon and the Ninja Falcon Megazord were fighting fiercely. However, just like the smaller version, each hit seemed to only promote healing or reform. It feels like socking the beach, guys, yelled Rocky in frustration. Have you ever done it before with genuine concern? Billy asked. Boys, not right now, Kim screamed. This thing is much more dangerous at this size. I doubt a sword would be effective. We need a method to keep it together in order to damage it. We could lead the monster to the bay using either fire or water. Billy proposed the notion. Let's do it. Sadly, the bay was naturally close to the shore, and when they brought the beast within 100 yards of the water, it seized control of the surrounding sand and ensnared the Megazord. Mummy is going to indulge now, even though oil isn't as sweet as blood. Warning sounded as the Megazord systems were compressed by the sand. Over the sirens, Aisha yelled, how did Naruto defeat this thing? Well, you could just inquire with a composed tone. Naruto's voice emerged from the communication array connected to the command center. Well, what would you suggest? Naruto-sensei, Tommy answered, a little irritated by Naruto's nonchalant attitude in this circumstance. I think the fox sword is due. The Rangers saw the malevolent raccoon beast change its attention to something in the distance, after a brief period of stillness on the communication connection. A Zord with 9 mechanical tails streaming behind it appeared, 3 times larger than the blue wolf sword. Its run abruptly changed into a forward flip and spin, and its armor plate was orange and red. Over the communications, Naruto said, Foxy Mega Spirit Cunts. Foxfire Wheel. The Rangers all moaned. Even though he was saving them from certain death, Kimberly couldn't resist saying, he comes up with the worst names. The chibi replica was propelled through the air, and its sandy structure partially melted when the Zord changed into a burning wheel and crashed straight into it. Alright, that's what I mean. Now for the finale. Foxy Mega Spirit Cunts. Plasma Tails. The monster Zord's 9 tails flashed to life like orange lightsabers. As the fox sword twisted and swirled, a tail would pierce the Nightman's form, leaving an unhealing, superheated gash. Jetzt kommt der Letztzug. Plasma Parade. The end of the plasma tail. The Zord whirled around like a spinning wheel once more, its 9 tails darting out in rapid succession to rip the creature to pieces, severing its head with the last blow. Yes. Naruto style, that's how we do it.